let me just say I really appreciate you guys turning out for this meeting. This is a Heritage Hills HOA meeting. I'll give you a little background on why we're here and why what you can expect to get from this meeting, and hopefully set some expectations. But first of all, let's welcome Judge Stewart. He is currently a judge in the 18th Judicial District. He will be heading up the 23rd Judicial District, and that's part of the reason why we're here, is because we're trying to figure out how to give him the office space that he needs to perform his function. So, welcome.
Thank you.
George Teal, Abe Layden, and Laura Thomas are here because they are the county commissioners that we've been interacting with, and we have asked them to be here to educate us. I mean, this is I'm going to assume that nobody in the audience really understands what county commissioners do, and you need to know that because they're your public servants, and they're doing a phenomenal job in a lot of areas, and they need to be respected. So that's part of this, but part of it is to drill down into this particular decision about the location of the probation office and the deliberations that they've had among themselves. And we ask that they take a moment from their schedules to meet with us so that we can express our support or lack of support. And if we're lacking in support, why are we having a problem accepting this particular alternative? Marissa Harmon is here. I understand she has a bodyguard, and he's here too, but you don't know who he is. And so behave yourself, okay? I guess that's one of the, oh, it's her husband. Dad. Oh, does he have a dad? Do you have a carry permit? Maybe you do, I don't know. We also have members of the Heritage Hills HOA board here because we have taken a position that we need to listen to our homeowners and independently gauge what's going on and come to a conclusion. And at the end of this meeting, our responsibility is, having heard you guys, is to say here's where the HOA is on the issue, and that's part of the fun of being the president, I guess. We also have a whole group of Heritage Hills homeowners. Raise your hand. Okay, that's what it is. How many of you are here who are not associated with Heritage Hills but represent other communities? Well, that's really good because this is not exclusively a Heritage Hills issue. This affects all the residents in Lone Tree because, to the extent that there are risks, all of us share the risks. Some of us maybe a little bit more than others, but that's just reality. So that's where we are. And then there's others of you who are invited guests. I don't know who invited the news media and their cameras, but we'll go with that. That's fine. So let me just give you a little bit of background before we jump into the meeting. The Colorado Judicial District or branch, which is a state function, has decided that they would approve the county's request that we be separated from the 18th Judicial District. When they did that, Judge Stewart is responsible for standing up a new judicial district. So there's organizational stuff that's going on behind the scenes. And one of those things is he needs office space for what's called the Criminal Justice Services Group within his purview, which provides services, and we'll talk a little bit about what those services are in a minute, to folks that come under his responsibility to supervise. I want to clarify one thing, and that's that we're dealing with probation, not parole. Parole is a whole other deal, and the state handles parole. We have jails, they have prisons, okay? So we're kind of on the front end of a system that hopefully, if we do it right, we we won't have people going to prison. That's the idea is. And that's called restorative justice, and it's also called parole. I mean, what we're trying to do is mitigate risk and get people to change their behavior at the earliest point that we can, and that's to everybody's benefit. Obviously, office space is required for Judge Stewart to perform his functions. A little bit of housekeeping before we start. We have 1 hour, so we gotta, wherever we are, we're gonna quit at 6:30. So I've asked the panel and myself, because I tend to be long-winded, to be concise. And I've tried to put this together in a way that we can be as quick as we can so that we can cover as much information as we can cover. One of the downsides of that is that we're not going to have an opportunity probably to entertain questions from the floor or observations from the floor. We may, if we're all diligent. Hopefully we'll have 10 or 15 minutes at the end, but I can't guarantee that's going to happen because I'm not sure exactly how those that are delivering information are going to, how much time they're going to take. That said, those of you from Heritage Hills knows that we've created and executed a survey, and we've asked for comments from everybody when they gave us a thumbs up or a thumbs down, where you think the HOA ought to fall on this. I know probably 400 comments. For you guys to come up with something new, just so you can say them, my guess is we've got them covered. And they may have not made the list that I've got that I'll show you on the screen, but you need to have confidence that we've done our homework in trying to manage this session to bring it to a real precise point of focus, okay? So don't be offended if you can't say what you came to say tonight, because we may run out of time. This is a town hall meeting. So George and I got together, and I said, again, in the interest of time, can I organize the meeting this way with the intention of having the commissioners give as much information as they can, as quickly as they can, so he knows the questions that I'm going to ask him. There's no surprises going on this evening. It shouldn't be. I mean, if we've got a question and I know what your questions are, I ought to be able to ask him in advance so he's prepared to answer the question. And it's not just George, it's George perhaps passing the question to one of his colleagues on the commissioner, on the Board of Commissioners. You may notice that we've got some news media in the room. We also have, the HOA is committed to and is now videotaping this whole thing. So probably by Sunday night, maybe Monday, we will send out a link so that if you have people who are not able to make the meeting, we want everybody in the community to be fully informed. So again, that's not so we can play gotcha in the future. We just think this is a perfect opportunity to educate people on the way things actually work. So that's what we're up to. So that said, let's get on to the meeting. There's two reasons for us to meet tonight. One is we want to understand the Board of County Commissioners and how they work and how they make decisions and how this whole thing, I'm much better informed this week than I was 2 weeks ago. And my respect has gone up, not down, because those guys are doing a great job. We may disagree with them from time to time on a specific issue, and we reserve the right to be disagreeable once in a while. But for most of the time, we want to be supportive, and I think that's an evidence tonight. We're here to support the county commissioners. But we also want to, part two here, is we want to express our concerns very clearly and very succinctly. And we have several that you'll hear about in a second. So I've given George this list and said I think there's five or six things that we want to know about. One is, and I'm going to, when we think we've got this one covered, you can give me the high sign and I'll move to number two. I'm not expecting you to answer all these all at once, but let's walk through these one at a time. So George, acquaint us with the responsibilities of the Board of County Commissioners and how you make decisions.
So folks, my name is Judicial. I'm one of your 3 Douglas County Commissioners. I'm currently serving as the chair of your Board of Douglas County Commissioners. So what is the role and responsibility of the BOCC? BOCC being the Board of County Commissioners. It's a broad role. Colorado State Constitution says that any government set up at the local levels in the state of Colorado must follow Republican form. You can use a little R there if you'd like, but the bottom line is there is no county mayor. There is no county executive. It is 3 commissioners who inherently have no individual power, but as a board, voting, then have very broad expansive powers under the Colorado Constitution. Everybody's familiar from grade school. We all learned that in America, we divide government into 3 branches: an executive, a legislative, and a judicial. Here in Colorado, at the county level, the Board of County Commissioners constitute both the executive branch of government, because we have executive roles to execute state policy. We are the legislative branch. We can pass laws that are effective here in the state, in the county of Douglas. And then we do have not a fully judicial role, Judge, that's your department, but we do exercise quasi-judicial powers, mostly in the form of land use, very much like your town council and your mayor execute here within the city. And so we are the Board of Human Services for the county. We are the liquor license authority for the county. When it comes to land use decisions, development, we handle those land use requests that come in from landowners to say, I wish to use my land in this way. Please change the zoning. Please let me build a building. Please let me build a barn in some instances. And we actually had a zoning question the other day that we had to make based on a resident who wanted to build a barn south of Castle Rock. And so our powers really are relatively broad. In many ways, we have a bit more authority than the governor of the state of Colorado. But his goes border to border in Colorado, ours goes border to border within Douglas County. When you talk about your city, that's where our authority does end, at your city boundary, for many things. Whereas, thinking in terms of you have a police force, even though the county still means the sheriff's department. Somebody wants to do a land use matter in your city, you need to go talk to your mayor. You need to go talk to your council members. We don't have authority for that.
Okay, so let me interrupt you for just a second. What I think of interest to this group is, tell me about the relationship between the new 23rd and the county. So, I mean, you're working on finding him home, office space, so there's some kind of a partnership that's going on here, but he didn't work for you.
Correct. So we've made the commitment, and it's going to go into our next session where we talk about the judicial district, which we might just go into here soon. But we did make the commitment that the 18th judicial being split in 2, the 23rd judicial coming down, that we were going to save the taxpayers money. We were going to save you taxpayer money by going ahead and consolidating many administrative functions under the county. Case in point, we're planning on, hey, come on in, John. You get to participate too. Folks, PA John Kellner of the 18th Judicial District.
I had a town hall in this room maybe 5 weeks ago. There's a lot more people here.
There you go, John. You need to come to ours. We made the commitment we're going to provide IT services. We're going to provide the human resources support. And we're also going to do our best to provide facility support to the 23rd Judicial. Judge Stewart, you're going to be in the Justice Center with your fellow justices. And for the other employees that go into the Judicial Department, we're going to go ahead and find a way to house them and allow them to do their jobs.
Okay, so let's drill into the 23rd Judicial District's responsibilities? What actually, and maybe this is a question for you, Judge Stewart, if you want to pass him the mic, tell us in practical terms, what is it that you're going to do when January runs around that you're not doing at the moment, or you're doing in consolidation with Arapahoe County or something?
Well, we're really not going to be doing anything different. We're still going to be providing the same judicial services that we've been providing as the 18th Judicial District with Arapahoe, Douglas, Elbert, and Lincoln counties. But we're going to be doing that now as just Douglas, Elbert, and Lincoln counties. So 4 years ago, the legislature passed a bill initiated at the request of Douglas County, but I think supported by Arapahoe County, to split the district into 2 districts. It was the largest district in the state. And they gave us 5 years to plan for it, but then only allocated the money to start planning about 6 months ago. So that's sort of where we are in the process. And to add on to something that Commissioner Teal said, actually under state law, while the judicial branch is responsible for providing the judges, providing the probation officers, the counties are statutorily responsible for providing facilities. So offices for probation officers, courtrooms, offices for judges, and that's a county responsibility. Also, if you don't mind, I just want to correct one thing that I saw on the slide. There are 3 separate agencies. They're not all under criminal justice services. So the judicial branch is responsible for providing probation officers and probation supervision. The district attorney's office provides a diversion office, diversion program, and then the county is responsible for pretrial services. So those are the 3 different services that we intend and would like to provide and service out of this North satellite office.
Okay, so no, that's good. Let me toss you the next question. So the what I'm calling CJS, which is Criminal Justice Services, is looking for a place to do something. And you said it's not just us, there's also some county things that we would like to get them all together. What actually is going to go on inside the office, wherever it's located? What goes on there?
Well, it might help to take a little step back. So in Colorado, charges are filed. They can be misdemeanor charges or felony charges. Misdemeanor, the low-level charges, and I apologize if you already know this, but there may be some in the room that don't, so I just want to take a step back and make sure we're all on the same page.
Yep.
The district attorney charges cases. They come into the courts. Misdemeanor cases come into county court. We have 3 county court judges in Douglas County. They sentence on misdemeanor and traffic cases. Those include DUIs, shoplifting, other serious traffic offenses. Felony cases, or any case that has a felony charge, is charged into district court. We have 2 district court judges that handle criminal cases in Douglas County. I'm one of those judges, in addition to my responsibilities as being the administrative judge for the 23rd Judicial District. When we sentence an individual in county court, we have 2 options. We can put an offender on probation, or we can put them in the county jail. Or sometimes we can do both. A felony, when it comes to me for sentencing, I have a few more options. I can place somebody on probation, I can put them in a halfway house, a community corrections facility, or I can put them in prison. And probation is a alternative to community corrections or prison. And so when it comes to me for sentencing, I am making a determination as to whether or not this person is able to be supervised in the community on probation, or if they're not safe to be in the community, I'm looking at a community corrections placement, which we don't have any of those facilities in Douglas County currently. Douglas, Elbert, or Lincoln, anywhere in the 23rd. So we're going to be using facilities outside of the 23rd Judicial District for that, or prison. People who are sentenced to prison, as you can imagine, are the ones that the courts have determined are the more dangerous, more violent, more serious offenders. And those individuals, once they get out of prison, can be transitioned into a community corrections facility, and they're placed on parole. We're not looking at a parole office. We're not looking at supervising people out of the Department of Corrections and reintegrating them in the community. These are people that a determination has been made that they're safe to be in the community by a judge, usually through a stipulation, frankly, with the district attorney's office. The district attorney is also making a determination that these are individuals that can be supervised in the community. And I needed to explain that to get to the next, what's going to be happening in the facility.
Right.
So and I can turn it over to Mr. Kellner to answer a little bit about the diversion program and what his plans are for the facility there. That's run by his office. Scott Matson runs our pretrial services program in the county. He's a county employee. So individuals who are charged with a crime, presumed innocent, haven't been convicted, we set a bail. If they're too dangerous, we set a very high bail. If they're able to be monitored in the community, we'll oftentimes put them on pretrial services supervision. Pretrial will monitor those individuals in the community, if they're safe to be monitored in the community, and while they await trial. Probation, which is a judicial branch function, is the one of the three that I'm responsible for in the 23rd Judicial District. Those are individuals who have been sentenced. A treatment plan has been developed to provide services and treatment to keep them in the community so that they can be safe, so that we can enhance public safety in Douglas County. I actually see a number of probation officers here that do phenomenal work. They live in our communities. They monitor these individuals every day. If you wouldn't mind just standing up and waving to everybody. These are the people that are doing work. They do home visits. They make sure that people are doing what they need to do. Most of the people they supervise are low-level offenders, committed to DUI, shoplifting, and they will do check-ins at the office. I think we anticipate about 100 individuals checking into the office per week. So that averages out to about 20 check-ins a day in that office. I can say that of the individuals that are supervised, they're sentenced out of Douglas County. 1/3 of those that live in Douglas County live in Castle Rock. 2/3 of the offenders in Douglas County live in Highlands Ranch, Lone Tree, and Parker, that north corridor near C-470. So when we're talking about providing services for individuals who've committed crimes in Douglas County, most of those are occurring up here in the north. And it's really hard without public transportation for those individuals to get down to Castle Rock, especially those who don't have a driver's license because they had a DUI. And so we want to be able to serve the community. We want to be able to serve those that have offended in our community and have been determined to be treatable. And most of those live up here in the north, and so it's more convenient for them. Those are more, those individuals who are able to check in are more likely to be successful on probation.
Good. Now, my understanding is that there's currently a CJS office in Castle Rock. Is that correct?
There is a Community Justice Services runs pretrial, so there is a Castle Rock office in the Justice Center. There's a probation office in the Justice Center.
Okay.
And then the diversion office, I think, is a new requirement. I think all of diversion is currently supervised in Arapahoe County. But I can turn it over to Mr. Kellner now, I think.
All right, well, good afternoon, everybody. John Kellner, District Attorney for the 18th Judicial District. So I'm going to talk real briefly about diversion. I know you have a bunch of other questions, but I want to make sure everybody understands what we're talking about when I say diversion. So first and foremost, I've been in this position as a prosecutor, as the elected DA for about 3.5 years. Before that, served under our prior elected DA, George Proctor, for 8 years as one of his chief deputies. And before that, I was a prosecutor in Boulder. And before that, I was a prosecutor in the Marine Corps. So I've been doing this for a while. Diversion is somewhat unique. Diversion is basically what happens when you've got a very low level offense, typically talking about juveniles, mostly kids. It's something that we assess individually on each individual case, that this person can make an agreement with my office, which is basically you will engage in some form of counseling, you will do some form of restorative justice. So think a kid who graffitis a store, right? Bad behavior, we want to get to the bottom of why they're doing that. We also want to make sure they understand, for the shop owner or whoever that is that was impacted, how did that actually affect somebody? So hopefully, this young person is learning from their mistake, and they're not going to be saddled with a criminal conviction afterwards. So think 15, 16 years old, bad decision, doesn't need to follow you through the rest of your life. Now, diversion is a relatively small slice of the cases that we prosecute. So we're talking about the sort of lowest level offender going to that office. Right now, our diversion office, I think we have about 21 or 22 folks in the office. That includes case managers, that includes therapists, and includes supervisors, people that are directing who's going to which therapist, and monitoring progress. So as part of this agreement in diversion, we're basically saying you got to sign here, you got to take responsibility for what you've done, and you've got to meet these metrics. It may be community service, it may be counseling, it may be meeting with parents, talking about root cause issues, things like that. So we're really trying to make sure that we're rehabilitating people at the lowest possible level. With those 21-ish people that we have doing this work across the district right now, as we split, and the 18th goes off to be their own district, they're just Arapahoe, and the 23rd is Douglas, Elbert, Lincoln, we've got to make sure that we're continuing to provide those services for these lowest level offenders. Again, mostly juveniles. And why do you care about that? I mean, number one, it actually generally prevents more crime. So our diversion success rate, these kids that finish our program, it usually goes a year to a year and a half. The recidivism rate, so the likelihood that they're going to reoffend, is in the single digits. It's usually around 7 or 8%. That's tremendously low when you're talking about putting people on the right path. And it's not going to prevent them from having a record that then makes it difficult for them to get a job or go to college or pursue their ambitions and dreams. So we think this is a very important program to continue. So as part of this split, we've allocated roughly, let's call it roughly a dozen folks for a diversion office. And we need to have space for them to do their job here in Douglas County. Primarily because of the efficiencies of having this large judicial district of the 18th, most of them didn't work previously in Douglas County. But they do supervise a whole lot of kids in Douglas. So we need to make sure we provide them space. Now, as part of that, we're increasing our staff in the DA's office. So we have, organized crime unit, we've got domestic violence unit, special victims unit, we've got all these specialty units, including appeals, that are primarily based out of our Arapahoe County office. Now, because we're splitting up, those folks are going to stay over there in Arapahoe, we've got to then create those new positions here in Douglas to continue providing what you expect from your DA's office. So we've had to basically redo the interior of our office space to create more offices, more cubicles, spaces for our employees to work, which means our diversion staff, who are incredibly good at what they do, need some space. Unfortunately, we don't have enough space in the Justice Center for them to be there.
Okay, let me, that's a great segue, because I want to, I just put the slide up. Yeah, the next question relates to the office itself, and we're going to now drill down to the decision on the one light rail building. How much space is needed? Because the word I've heard is 27,000 square feet. That seems like a lot of space, and I think we're curious as to how many employees are going to be there, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I can speak to the DA's office. Part of our requirements, what we need. We've got about a dozen. I think we'd be better served with even more folks doing this work. In many respects, it should probably be closer to 15 or 16 people doing this work, but about a dozen of our employees, supervising a couple hundred people throughout the year.
Okay, so Judge Stewart, I'm assuming that the 27,000 square feet number is your number. That you said, George, I need an office and I gotta have this amount of space. Is that the way it worked?
No, it didn't work that way. The way that it worked is we met with the county and said we need additional office space.
Right.
I should also introduce our Chief Probation Officer, Lori Griffith, who are in the front row. We have run out of space in the Justice Center for offices. And we have, I'm going to ask you to correct me if I'm wrong, about 18 more that we're going to need.
Okay.
And so we can't put them in the Justice Center.
Right.
We can put some of them in the Justice Center. It might be more than maybe 20, 22. Am I close? Okay. And we don't have room for all of them in the Justice Center. So we can expand the Justice Center and put more office space there, but frankly, there's an opportunity to put offices in a location that is more convenient for people.
Okay.
And so we asked for more space. We asked for about 20 more offices. Pretrial Services, who's also serving people, a lot of people in the north part of Douglas County, also asked for a certain amount of space. And then the planners got together, the people who know better about how big an office should be and how big a lobby should be, and came up with that 27,000.
Okay. And we'll just take that as a given, that's, George, that's the task you got handed, is go find us 27,000 square feet, which perfectly would, I'm sure if we drilled into it, we probably would have no reason to challenge that. In fact, probably support the office requirement because of the increased responsibilities. That leads to another question, which is, with all of those functions going on, when you have the office, you said, in terms of one group, you've got like 10, maybe 10 or 12 a day. What's the total traffic in and out of this office projected to be?
That I don't know. I need to turn to, say again, John? Judge, what do you think, sir?
Well, for probation side, I anticipate about 20 a day. I'm looking at pretrial. Did you say about the equivalent?
Yes, sir.
So 20 from probation, 20 from pretrial.
Vicki, what do you think? About 20 a day.
So 60 people, 60 clients coming.
Coming and going. Okay, so I'm just trying to get a feel for the traffic and what's.
And with, I would imagine with juveniles, you have their parents showing up as well, so that
Right.
would increase the number of people. I'm talking about clients.
Clients, yeah, your clients, okay. And I think you've explained the role of the services that are being performed and the number of people required to do that. And I think we'd all agree that those services are essential, because what we're trying to do is reduce recidivism, catch someone at the earliest possible moment, help them get back on the right path, and so this is a commendable objective. I'm curious about the office selection criteria. When you looked at a place to put this, what was the criteria that you used? And I'm assuming that you probably didn't. I'm not necessarily asking you to answer the question, because if you handed it to George and he's got your request, then somebody in here's got
I
the
can say
criteria.
the request that I made to the county commission, and then
Okay.
and Commissioner Till can probably follow up on that. It was a joint request really from the district attorney's office, pretrial services, and judicial. Understanding we all have this additional office space need. We were in a meeting one day and we said, wow, like, wouldn't it be great, we don't have any space here, and we have a transportation problem where it is very difficult for a lot of our clients to get from where they live in the north part of Douglas County and north of Douglas County to Castle Rock, because we don't have public transportation to Castle Rock. And if we could locate a building where people live, or where people can get to easily, that would be ideal. And then on top of that was, of course, the money piece, which I'll turn over to Commissioner Teal.
Well, that's fine. We're going to assume that whatever decision was made was economically in the best interest of taxpayers. But hold on just a second, Laura, because I want to get the next slide is where I want to hear from. How was the selection made? I'm just saying, how the parameters that Laura ends up with, because she's the person that, on the commissioner's side, that got the request and is managed in partnership with the new 23rd, she's the person who's really responsible for making a selection. Well, maybe it is time to, Laura, to ask you a couple of questions. One is, in the process of trying to fulfill this, when did you start looking for office space?
So good evening, everyone. I'm Laura Thomas. In 2018 is when I thought, maybe we need to have our own judicial district. And I went to my fellow commissioners, and that's when this journey started in 2018. In 2020 is when the law was passed that created the ability to have a new judicial district in January of 2025. I've been meeting with the judge, the district attorney. I'd like to introduce Dan Avery. Dan, if you want to stand up, Tim Hallmark, and Scott Matson. These are county employees that have been in hundreds of meetings since 2020 trying to figure this out. So what I would like to do really, Carl, is ask Tim to come up, because he was given the task. Tim is the facilities manager for the county, and he was given the task of finding something that had 27,000 square feet, close to public transportation, that would be available by January 1st of 2025. And so we all, Abe, George, and I, have got so many things on our plate. We are not doing this actual work. We have staff that do so much work for us. So Carl, I think it'd be more
That's
efficient for
perfectly
Tim to
fine.
come up here
Tim,
and
sure.
explain this piece. Thank you.
You got 30 seconds. I'm watching the clock here, so go ahead. Take what you need.
So late in 2023, so mid-late fourth quarter 2023 is when we identified for a fact that all three of these divisions were going to need more space. We knew that we were going to definitely be onboarding new employees to support the new 23rd Judicial District. Identified what the average count of people was going to be. I and my team met with all of these individuals to see what their space needs were. How many offices? What do you need for conference space? Do you need training space? What do your lobbies need to look like? What do you need for security? What do you need for segregation from the other divisions that are here for safety purposes? Took all of those requirements. That's then when we then met with an architect to kind of do some space planning to drive ourselves to what's the in general square footage that we need. Then we started that kind of a hunt with also the directive of, we need to be in the northern part of the county. We need to be within some type of public transportation route. That leads us basically to, for the most part, I-25 and the E-470, C-470 kind of corridor. That's where we can pick up public transportation. We knew what our square footage requirement was, and that's where the hunt started. We didn't have a specific type or location for the building other than being within that public transportation corridor. We didn't care if it was a Class A, Class B, Class C building, just does it meet the square footage requirements? And that's where it all started.
Good. Good. How many candidates, maybe that's not the right word, how many places did you look at?
We have looked in excess of 20, and actually gotten, entertainment from the owners of about 11
Okay.
over the course of the last 6 months.
Okay. The other question had to do with pros and cons. Every building that you considered had certain advantages or disadvantages. What was the, I think I know the answer. I would say from your perspective, correct me if I'm wrong, the advantage for the One Lincoln Station building is, I think you said it, transportation and availability. And that's pretty much the criteria that was used to select that.
It was. I mean, you can't get a better location for public transportation. It doesn't exist.
Right.
Also, the engagement from the owner of that facility. He was very open, was really very energized to make a good deal with Douglas County, provide us a good asset at a reasonable cost. And he had the square footages that we needed. That's literally the only reasons why it was kind of one of the top level choices.
Okay. Well, that's been very helpful, Tim. Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
I know there's a difference of opinion on the council on whether this is a correct location or not. So I thought I'd ask Laura, is there anything that you would like to say in support of the current location that hasn't been said. And if you care to, go ahead and tell us what you're thinking.
Thank you. I'll just indicate, I spent 26 years with the Colorado State Patrol. I arrested lots of people for lots of different things. I lost track of the number of people who sent me a letter saying, thank you for arresting me. That was the worst night of my life, but it turned out to be the best night of my life. I have turned my life around, and I have seen personally the impact of the services that the district attorney has discussed and the judge has discussed. And I know I've made lots of mistakes. This is an opportunity to give people an opportunity to turn their life around. And that's why I think whatever location we can find to put these people here is what benefits our entire community. And we heard the judge say that he's got criteria before he puts someone in probation. And that's why I support whatever location we can find that allows people the opportunity to get to these probation meetings, or to go into diversion, or the pretrial services.
Good.
This is what we're trying to do, so thank you, Carl.
Well, and I would say, I doubt that there's anybody present here would not agree that these services are absolutely essential, and we're supporting it with our tax dollars, and it's a very good thing. And Laura and I have chatted a bit. She knows some of my background, not that I was in pretrial release or anything. I was a mentor for DYC teens who were involved with gangs in Denver. So I've got a bit of experience that lasted 10 years.
Carl, I'm gonna cut you off, my friend. So here's the deal. You spent 40 minutes talking down to 500 people in my district. These are educated professionals that are our friends and neighbors.
Yep.
They've seen the information. We get paid to do this. I have the highest level of respect for Judge Stewart, Judge Kellner, my colleagues. We work hard on this. These citizens they're spending dinner here with us tonight. How about we hear from the people that are here? We can't put offenders next to kids in a residential neighborhood.
I have no dog in this fight other than I want to provide office space for my employees. Where it is, that's a political decision that's going to be made by the elected officials. But I do want to provide facts. I think that's important. The current probation office is 0.38 miles away from 3 schools: an elementary school, an early childhood center, a high school. My kids went to that elementary school. I sent my kids there. I wouldn't send my kids to a school 0.38 miles away from a probation office that I thought had dangerous people.
But you chose to live there.
Yeah, I chose to send my kids to that school. I did. And I'm just saying, I'm not trying to convince anybody, I'm just letting you know.
Can we please have some comments?
What election of the current facility is already near schools and parks, so I just wanted to correct that.
Okay, good. Let me ask your patience for just a second. I think it's important for you to know that we have heard the neighborhood, and the HOA has come to a conclusion on basis, and I appreciate the fact, Abe, that you don't think it's necessary at this point to give the counterpoint to this, and that's fine. We have come to an independent decision, for those of you who are in Heritage Hills, and the purpose of the meeting was to give us an opportunity, me an opportunity as representative of the neighborhood, to express our concern, but then to give you guys an opportunity as well. So if you'll permit me, let me take 10 minutes or so.
We're invested in being here so that our opinions can be heard.
Okay, let's take, I asked for.
With all due respect, I'm going to go into the crowd. Who's up? How about our new mayor, Marissa Harmon?
Good afternoon. I just want to extend my gratitude for everyone in here that has decided to join us this evening. Thank you so much for choosing to come here and show up for your community. It means a lot. I know that we are long-winded in explaining how we got to this point. I want to extend my gratitude to Mr. Crawford for putting this meeting together so we have the opportunity to let our voices be heard. I think that's the most important thing. What I'm going to ask tonight is that we find a more suitable location for the CJS services. What I'm going to ask is for us to show civil discourse in the remainder of the meeting. If you can and you have something to say, let's just raise our hand. Commissioner Layden will take the mic.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate your leadership. Yes, sir.
Thank you, I appreciate it. I wrote something down and did a little research. As much as I don't want this around my house, this isn't about my house, it's about the access to children that people on probation have with this location in Lone Tree, Colorado. You can say that not many of them are violent or sexual criminals, however, the majority of people are never the problem, it's the individuals that are the problem. So I looked up some statistics before coming here. According to the Colorado State Statistics website, 414 narcotics crimes in Douglas County happened last year, that's 35 per month. 306 assault offenses, that's 25% per month. 145 non-consensual sexual offenses in Douglas County, that's 12 per month. 46% of those were rape, 42% of those were fondling. Roughly 50% of these people end up on probation according to every stat I could find. Almost a significant percentage will need to visit this proposed location. This proposed location is extremely close to 8 apartment communities and 4 schools. All of these are within a 20-minute walk of that facility. St. Classical Academy is a 10-minute walk and has 862 students. Many of them walk to school or ride to school. Lone Tree Elementary is approximately a 20-minute walk from the station, has 377 students. Many of them walk or ride to school. Eagle Academy High School is another one, 20 minutes, 123 students. Many of them walk or ride to school. This plan will systematically deliver these people to this location on repeat. The question we have here is, what's more important, giving charged criminals who have had violent or sexual related crimes easy access to light rail, or keeping them away from our schools and our children?
Let me go to the back here. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Dr. Michelle Sancho. I own Park Excursion Specialist. I'm one of the owners there, which is literally in the same parking lot. I see all ages, infants, toddler, children, all the way to elderly. The practice next to me, Willow Creek Dental, they see all ages. We have another practice next to us, Neo Orthodontics, they see children. So already having the light rail next to our office is tough. I have had numerous transients come in and cause problems. We've had to call the cops quite a few times. To add this population to this area will be even tougher. And like I said, there are lots of children that we see. And so please keep that in mind.
My name is Jason Medine, and I was here to invited to speak on behalf of the business community, so I'm taking a little bit different tack from the safety concerns, which are totally legitimate that most people are thinking about. I am a tenant in that building. Okay, and I just learned about this last week. I was totally shocked. There's another tenant over there raising his hand, and my colleague here. We are actually in the process of extending our lease with this building, and we chose that, which is very expensive, by the way, for us, maybe not the county. Fun for us business owners. We chose this office because it's Class A office space. It's very nice office space. And as I said, I was shocked when I found out about this. And I actually physically went to every tenant in the building that I could get into and talk to, everyone in the connecting office of the parking lots. And all but one were shocked that it was that this was happening. No one knew, but one tenant knew about it. No one else knew about this. So it feels like that this is for us, the citizens, it's an 11th hour decision. And it feels like this is one more comment here, okay? I'll go. You guys have had a lot of time since you knew this was coming, and I'm not saying it's not an easy task to get this done. But if this happens, if it's relocated into that building, we are not going to re-up our lease. We're going to leave, and we're going to go to Arapahoe County because that has the office space that we need. So if you do this, you are replacing private business owners with government employees.
That doesn't sound like a very Republican principle for us. So if this happens, do you want to replace me with bureaucrats? Thank you. So I see a very important question that I want to speak. And I always begin with the end in mind. There's 3 decision makers in this room, 3 votes. My friend and colleague, George Teal, has been an advocate and a champion for common sense for every year that I've served with him. And I know you want to speak, so I'll give it to you.
Actually, I believe, Judge, you wanted to make a couple comments.
Well, I just wanted to say that I fully understand, and I hear the concern about children in this location. I can commit to you, hearing your concerns, that we will not supervise any sex offenders or people that we determine violent criminals in this location. I don't understand what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. I'm saying that what we can do is we can supervise those.
We don't trust that. Sorry, we do not trust that.
We don't trust you.
I stood in front of you 12 years ago when you had a big building coming up here, and I went before the board, not you, and they said, don't worry about it. We will take the public opinion and the comments. I'm just an ordinary guy. But when I told everybody, and only 6 or 7 of us showed up, not which I love now, all of these folks, they said, we'll take your comments into consideration. The decision was already made. That's what we believe. You've already made this decision. When you put that much space for government use, it's going to double, it's going to triple.
That's my worry.
We got 2 minutes, I'm going to reserve 5, so appreciate your help.
Jenny Latchley from Shea Homes, who is a tenant in that building. Jenny?
I'm Cheddar Latcher, I'm president of Shea Homes, and have been for the last 26 years. And I just feel obligated to comment. It's a difficult choice. I recognize the need. I think we all recognize the need. None of us are arguing that. We need these wraparound services that the county provides. They need a home. I think that the concern that we all have is that this feels like a square peg in a round hole. We spent years master planning Lyric before we brought it online. We designated ground for government services, because typically we like to group government services together, office services together, and housing, retail. So there's an order. We did the same thing in Highlands Ranch. So many of you may live in our communities, Highlands Ranch, Stepping Stone, Lyric, Canyons. We have been a very good corporate citizen, and we believe we're a very good master plan developer. I look at this and just feel like we're making a mistake here in terms of hierarchy of usage. The idea of light rail proximity, I understand, but the judge said 73% of these folks are coming from Parker to Highland Ranch. I'm not sure where they're getting on. I understand where they're getting on. I don't know where they're getting on light rail.
Can you address that?
Let me finish and turn it back to you. I feel like we're trying to put our best foot forward to attract new businesses to Douglas County and the cities within the county. Every one of our homeowners comes to our office building at least twice for design center appointments and always at closing. We try to put a great foot forward on behalf of the county and the cities we represent, and that we're safe, accommodating environment. This is a really difficult, these people all need a second chance, 100% agree. They're in a bit of duress. Is that the front-facing foot we want in the city of Lone Tree? It doesn't. We're all saying we agree with these services, but let's find the right location. When we donated land in Highlands Ranch to the Law Enforcement Training Center, we didn't put it in University in 470, right? We tucked it in over the hill. And there was a thoughtfulness to the plan. All of our master plans have space for governmental entities. Why are we trying to force fit court space into an office building when we really desperately need to continue to recruit companies to our community? We have a 35-year relationship with the county, and we love that relationship. We don't want to go anywhere, but we're going to get forced to make a decision about leaving because we can't risk our brand, we can't risk our homeowners, the experience and the introduction to these new communities. This needs to be done really well, and now we're creating an environment of uncertainty, and I just think it's a mistake. And Commissioners, we've spoken, and I just appreciate you taking the time to do this, but I just want you to hear loud and clear, as a master plan developer, there's nothing about this that feels right to me.
Again, as a member of the judicial branch, I don't have a position, I'm not advocating for a position, but I did want to answer the question. When I said 2/3 of the individuals who live in Douglas County, who have been sentenced in Douglas County, live on that C-470 corridor, and 1/3 live. Do you want information? I'm just here to get facts. You don't want information?
Okay, let me. I think the position of the county and the need for office space, and I appreciate Judge you being with us this evening. I want to close this by letting you know where your HOA is, and I think what we've got here is a bit of a misalignment in terms of priorities. The Douglas County Commissioners are responsible under state statute for health, safety, and the welfare of every citizen in the state, or and certainly in our county, but that's bigger than just our county. Having heard our constituents, I can say unequivocally that the HOA is totally opposed to keeping this location and keeping the proposal in the one light rail building. Yeah, the Shaw building. I think there's a couple of reasons for it. We've heard this. Let me just give you ours. I think there are inherent risks in the function of this office. I'm not going to go through the slide, but we've heard the services, we've heard the kind of clients. Most of them hopefully will do exactly what we ask them to do and they'll turn around. There's a percentage that won't. And so that's my concern. It is more than anything else, if I were going to say what's the criteria that should be used, is what's the risk to public safety? And I would say this office has a higher risk than the office that you have down in Castle Rock. And the second thing is, if you compare this location, and we have, to other CJS locations, because there are now 23 judicial districts, each one has an office. Putting this facility, or putting this function in a Class A office space we could not find anybody in our research. There may be some, but I would be very surprised if anybody would put this function in a high residential area in a Class A office building, regardless of the cost savings. I've been over, and I'll show you a picture in a minute, to what this building looks like. And it looks like we're going first class, because we're going first class. And I just can imagine someone who's being supervised getting off the light rail and saying, hey, this is a really classy place. And the impression would not be the impression that I would want to create if I were making this decision. All the other offices, including it, it would be interesting for me to know maybe after the meeting, tell me about the office space for the 18th Judicial District and the quality of that office space and where it's located, because this, I can, with a high degree of certainty, I would say that it's not in a Class A office building in the middle of a high density residential thing. There is no requirement for light rail. I understand that that would be a good thing to have if I were in the judge's position. There's no question but that if I could get it next to a light rail station. The problem is that there isn't any light rail effectively in Douglas County. The transportation problem exists, but it's not my problem, okay? We need to take that. If I'm the commissioner, you guys have got to get your act together on public transportation. The fact that Lone Tree has done that, Jackie, to your credit, is unfortunate. But because it exists where we are, and perhaps in the corridor, that doesn't mitigate the need for a master transportation plan in Douglas County. And if you look at the map, most of the services are being, not most, because Laura corrected me on this, there's been several offices that have been opened up in the corridor so that services can get closer to where they need to be. And there's no disagreement on the fact that services need to be where the people are. So I would go with that. We've talked about economic impact. I had invited the two fellows who just spoke to be part of my presentation, but I'm glad they jumped the gun. And we have no problem with the president of Shea Homes or the former president of Heritage Estates, and I appreciate the fact that you guys were prepared to offer your remarks. So I think the bottom line is if you leave it where it is, you got a significant risk that our community is just not ready to accept. And that's, you asked for our opinion, that's the bottom line. I took a drive down that corridor this morning. The one thing we haven't talked about is that this is a high-density residential community. I started to count the number of, and this is just a classic example of one of them. Most of them are 6 stories high. They run almost continuously down Park Meadows Drive. And I'll just show you a couple, but here's, and I had a half a dozen slides I just deleted, but here's the light rail station, and that's the Shea office building behind it. So we're literally talking about getting off a light rail and stepping into this building. This is not Class B space. I went inside and took a couple of shots. This is designed for people like Shea Homes or Nate. It's designed for you to provide premier services to your clients. And it's classy. I mean, this is good office space. In fact, I challenge anybody in Douglas County to match it. I mean, this may be the best office in the county. Right across, if you go through the building and come out on the other side, that's what it looks like. It's a little sign there that says Shea on it. And if you turn 180 degrees, you're looking at an apartment complex. My doctor's assistant, I was in the doctor's office earlier this week, and she said, "How's your life going?" I said, "Well, I'm going to have this meeting and we're talking." He said, "You're not really going to put that in across, I mean, you're less than 40 yards from where I live." And she said, "If you do this, I will not renew my lease. I'm leaving." Now, she didn't know a lot. But this is the issue. The other issue is that my neighborhood is within maybe 2/10 of a mile from this location. This is the brick wall that is on the back side of the Kaiser Permanente building. And at the end of this sidewalk is the gate into our community. And we have had an increase in crime in our community since the light rail came in. We love the light rail. But nobody, in fact, the number one issue in our neighborhood is how do we build security, because we know it's gonna get worse and it's not better. We have to make the investment to improve our neighborhood security. That's gonna be a big deal for the next several years. Right adjacent, on the other side of where that sidewalk is, this is called the Kitty Academy. This is where many of our homeowners are sending their 2, 3, 4-year-olds. Okay, this is even before you get to the gate. And for my constituents to be concerned makes perfect sense to me. I mean, I can't guarantee their kids' safety, and I can't guarantee that somebody's not gonna do something crazy who's coming in and out of these offices. So it's just a risk question. Here's the results of our survey. We got 400 people responded to the survey that I sent out late last week. All but 5 are against this. So there's no option that I have as an HOA president to say, I appreciate all the arguments, but it doesn't matter. The problem is if you do this, you will further erode the trust that exists between a very important segment of your community and your own responsibilities. And I can't imagine that you would want to do that. I could have read the survey results. I won't take time to do that, except to say that what you expressed a moment ago was loud and clear. There's no question about how you feel. So my conclusion is that the HOA is in opposition for some very good reasons. We're not against the district, the county commissioner, we're not against the justice part of this, but there is risk, and safety is our primary concern, and I think it should be your primary concern. The one criteria when I asked the question, there's a setup in this, and I apologize if you feel there is. When I asked what was your selection criteria, I heard 2 things: transportation and availability of space. Nowhere in the last half an hour did I hear public safety is our number one concern. I think the commissioners have heard us. There's nothing that I've said it's all that new. It's all the same stuff. But I think we need to ask a question: where do we go from here? What's the next step? Our HOA wants to be the premier community, wants our community to be the premier community in South Denver. And we're working hard to make this a really, really, really attractive place to live. We want to be part of, and we are part of, I think, the best city in South Denver. Maybe Colorado, I don't know. But that's a credit to the people that have been and worked and made really tough decisions. But we also want to be part of the best county, and I think that's kind of where we are. And we are totally in support. Nobody here is against anybody that's currently serving on the commission. We just think this is an error. Okay. So George, back to you. Where do we go from here?
All right. Thank you, Carl. I think Carl actually did do a good job summarizing the position of the list. Hey folks, there are 4 options before us right now. The property we're talking about right now that you have all come here to talk about is just one of them. Now, 4 options isn't a lot, but we have 4 options. One is to the west of Lone Tree, one is to the east of Lone Tree, and both have capability of transit service. We do have a 4th option that does that actually removes our option from the northern tier of the county and removes the option for transit. So we have those options before us. Nothing is decided at this time. I think you can probably see, whereas we have advocacy on 2 sides of this issue, you have not heard advocacy from me, because I would actually like to shake out all 4 options before we make a decision. So, I don't know if that's good news for you, but I assure you, this is something we're taking extremely seriously. We have heard you. I understand entirely what you're saying. Believe me, my kids went to grade school and high school within a half mile of our county jail. And so public safety was always a big concern for us. I have good stories to tell of public safety being applied with my kids' education.
We're behind bar down there.
With, so what are our next steps? It's something we're still working on. We haven't eliminated any of the 4. You heard from our facilities director, 20 properties have been looked at. So Cheddar, I don't know where you went to, but I've been talking to you. And Cheddar, you heard me talk about the fact that we've looked at other properties. They didn't work out. But we do have 4. We're working on them. And we do have some latitude, some time to work on this. We're not under a gun. Gentleman over here, sir, no, we haven't made a decision yet. And we're not under a deadline to force our decision today, tomorrow, this week, or next month. But we do need to get to that point. Folks, here's the really sad news. And here's the bad news. So maybe this part that's really gonna make you mad. I can go into every one of those other 3 communities. I will have a meeting just like this. I'm okay with warehouse space over by the airport. I worked in warehouse software for 20 years. I've seen many warehouses converted to office space. We'll talk to Your Honor and DA about that if that opportunity arises. That's where we're at. That's our next steps. Carl, back to you.
Good. Well, I think that's where my hope was, and I think our hope has been realized, is that we haven't just postponed a decision until we're through with this conversation. There's really a serious effort going to be made to find an alternative. And anything we can do to assist with that, I know it's true of the city as well, but we'd love to do it. Let me give it a chance just in wrap up. Yes, sir.
Real quick, just to restore trust, will you commit to meeting with us again before that final decision is taken?
We agree.
Absolutely. Good news or bad news, either way. And this goes somewhere else, instead of last here to tell you about it.
Before the decision is officially taken and you've come to a near conclusion, will you want to meet with us again before you sign any leases, before you make any legal commitments? You meet with the community again if you've decided on where you're going to put this center.
Well, I'm okay with this.
Well, we don't like the way it was handled.
So again, we have nearly 1,000 people that are here spending their evening with us. How about we allow them to have a good night and a good dinner with their families? I think it's pretty clear we have a number of alternatives that are not in the residential community, not by kids, that are distant and that can still provide community justice services. Can we get a commitment that this location is off the table?
So it's my understanding that Commissioner Teal said there are 4 that we have to research yet. And 3 more that we are going to research. I don't know what those other 3 are. And I think it's responsible to find out what the others are.
Aren't you in charge?
You're in charge.
Vote, who remember, vote.
Good.
Yeah, there's an
Like I said, I'm not an elected official. I don't have to say where the location is. I will continue to attend any meetings that people want to hear information, but I got shouted down last time. So I'll continue to attend meetings to provide information. I think that's my role, so that I can give information to the commissioners so that they can make the best decision.
We support what you're doing.
Yeah, no problem with you.
It's in the right spot. We support it. I hear you.
What is the question?
I'm just telling you my experience on the zero. And
The question for my friend and colleague that I've been able to count on for years, that I know listens to people in this community, that I trust with the work that I do, can you commit to taking this location off the table tonight?
Stand up.
Yeah, then, let's go ahead and stop working on this.
Right.